Well, here we are then for another F1 My Team episode, and we're here for round number 3, the Portuguese Grand Prix at Portimao. Now today, this is going to be of course the qualifying episode as always. In the background you can see me going through some activities and also some marketing department events. Now if you haven't seen the previous episode guys, the previous race at Imola, round number 2, go check it out. A very fun race and a very kind of well structured and patient race that I very much enjoyed. Go check it out, link up in the top right. But yeah, we're going to jump into the action here at Portimao, a track that I really enjoy, and we're going to see if we can try and keep our good form going after, a pretty decent start to the season. Don't get me wrong, Bahrain was a bit of an L, but pace-wise, it was decent. So, it seems like we're doing quite well. Me personally, I'm quite happy so far. I've been quite good at guessing and correctly predicting the AI difficulty level, so there's quite a bit of consistency from qualifying to race, which I like. But yeah, nonetheless, we're going to jump into qualifying, and as always, you're going to see me go through the setup process. So for this one, we're going to run 6 kilos of fuel, which gives us enough fuel for an extra lap if necessary. And then elsewhere, we're also going to make a few tweaks to the aero just to make the car a bit more stable, so running a bit less front wing, and then also the transmission up to 56 to keep it a bit more stable. Elsewhere, usual ride height 4.8 to basically avoid floor damage, not because it's quickest, but because floor damage is very likely. And then also, of course, our usual brake pressure tweaks to 80%. And then for now, we're going to run 1 click from the center off to the left in terms of tire pressures. Now, we hop on track in Q1, 3 minutes to go. I left it quite late as I wanted to just go through one set of tires. We got a bit of traffic here with Latifi, who I thought was on a lap, actually was on an in lap. So we started our own push lap. So let's see if we can get through in just one push lap and move straight into Q2 if possible. So down towards turn number 1 then, you want to go for 6th gear with these cars which are maxed out, carrying the speed, easy does it through there. Turn 3, we get a bit distracted, and I mean just a slight little loss of focus. I was looking at the apex and I actually drove myself off road, giving myself an invalidation. Luckily, again, this is why we put 6 kilos of fuel in, for 2 laps. So we're going to try again with a minute and a half to go. Starting the lap, 6th gear through turn 1, not quite as good as last time, but this time we keep it within track limits. Turn 3 braking a little bit too early there. I had to kind of get back on the throttle for a brief second to carry some corner speed as we're half a tenth down in sector 1. Spot the braking at about, I'd say, 70 meters, 3rd gear, short shift to 4th, and then drive off out of here. We're getting that nice clean traction. Sector number 2, very tricky technical part of the track, lots of corners and areas to get it wrong. This corner being the most tough one of the lot. Important to kind of turn in early and then straight line your exit and the kind of over the hill bit when you go back down to avoid wheel spinning. Double apex right, picking up a late apex on the second one, and then back down the power down the hill. On the brakes, nice and late, opening up this left hand hairpin, short shift to 5th if you need it on the exit, and then open up the next kind of inverted commas final corner, in which there is a brake zone, and then try to get the power as soon as possible out of here on the exit, and then now keep it flat through the long right hand of the final corner as we run up to the line. And it's going to be a 13.1, which isn't too bad actually. We go P4, and I think that should do the job. So we're going to turn the engine down and bring her back to the pits. Other cars around us did improve, with Verstappen being fastest on a 12.7. The Gasly up there in P4 with a 13.0, but generally the pace is good. So we're into Q2 comfortably, 1 set of tyres burned up, and nowhere near the maximum pace yet. So now we jump into Q2, and again the plan here is to get through on 1 set of tyres if possible, but this time we're going out a bit earlier in case we mess up and we need another lap. And we've got about 10 minutes to go here as we've had a pretty decent lap in fairness. I've got to say, it was an improvement on the Q1 lap, putting those little errors right and doing things correctly on this lap. I think my final sector wasn't as good, but the first and second sectors were much better. You can see me there, not quite as good through both hairpins, struggling a little bit on the balance of both as our tyres get pretty hot to overheating. And yeah, making our way through the final corner as we open up DRS across the start finish, and it's a 12.9 actually. So there we go, a much better lap and 0.2 quicker than Q1. That sees us move up to provisional P1 in Q2. We then went back to the pits and just basically kept an eye on things, and I was safe. The gap to P10 was about 0.3 actually. It was a really close grid. Everyone really competitive here, but in the grand scheme of things, P1 to P10, we should be fine. We have been knocked down to P2 as other cars do improve, but I'm not going to go out. We're going to stay in the pit box. And yeah, end of Q2 then. Leclerc manages to get second place. Gasly up in P4 with a 12.9 as well. Verstappen fastest of the bunch as he sets another 12.7. So the pace on his side looking pretty decent. And yeah, also Ricciardo through, both Mercedes through as well. Lance Stroll also in there in the mix. So the usual suspects are into Q3. Now then, let's get down to it. We've got 2 fresh sets of soft tyres to get used on this session. So this is our first lap. Let's see what happens to make our way down towards turn number 1. Bring the car over to the left, spot the 50, brake just before, but we miss a downshift and run wide and invalidate. And yeah, just a bit of a mistake there. I did downshift twice, but the second one didn't register for some reason. We stayed in 7th, and that gave me some understeer and didn't make the apex of turn 1. So we invalidated. I then went for a cool down lap, and we're going to try again. I've got just about enough fuel in the car, so you can see here we're up on our delta, but just through there we just run a bit wide. I pick up some understeer on the front and invalidate. So both laps in the bin on this first run, and you can see here as we go through the final corner, this lap was actually, even with the invalidation, it was a bit scruffy. 13.0, 10th slower than our Q2 lap, and there was quite a few mistakes in it. Nonetheless, we brought the car back to the pits, and I'm going to make some adjustments on the setup. I'm going to go a bit lower on the front wing. By doing that, I'm going to bring down the off diff, and that gives us a bit more rotation. We're going to keep the pressures the same. I thought maybe go one more, but we'll keep it safe for now. And I'm going to try and drive with a bit more understeer, but it will mean that we get a bit more stability and therefore traction in those crucial traction areas. Now, the final lap got off to a bit of a messy start. I almost lost the back end through the final corner, but nonetheless, we're underway then. Let's make our way down towards turn number 1. The issue is, though, you can see here we've got some traffic to deal with, and Lance Stroll is the car directly ahead of us as we go towards turn 3. Oh, we get squeezed in, and there's contact. Let's run a replay of that real quick just to see what happened. But you can see there, Stroll on the out lap, refusing to get out of the way, and unfortunately, we're going to ask for damage on the radio, and the answer is the worst case scenario.
Mind that front wing. It'll need replacing if it takes too much damage. Tyre condition is still looking good.
Which is a real shame because I fueled for 2 laps, so you know, I wanted to make sure we got a good lap in, and in case the first one wasn't on the money, the second one would be. But yeah, I went out, I thought I got my timing right, but the AI on this game are broken. They need to be patched, you know, for a long time now. I thought I would have been fine. I thought I avoided the issue by going out early enough and not having to encounter cars, but I went just a bit too slow on the outlap. Nonetheless, yeah, it means we finish in P10 with not an actual representative lap time to our name. Gasly in P7 only, which is a bit disappointing. Verstappen fastest with a 12.6. Some of those lap times might be a bit bugged out, not fully accurate, but nonetheless, yeah, there's your lot for qualifying. So, yeah, disappointing, man. I can't lie, we've had a good couple of qualifying so far this season. We dropped the ball here. Not entirely my fault, but I did mess up the first run myself on both laps, so I'll hold my hand up for that one. So, yeah, as for qualifying, I do think we could have got, I think, P4, looking at the lap times there. I think that would have been possible. We was a bit on the limit pace-wise, so I don't know if we would have got pole or even a front row, but I do think we could have knocked off Ricciardo and got 12.8. So, yeah, that's it for qualifying, guys, and I'm back for the race tomorrow. Stay tuned for that. Leave a like if you enjoyed this one. Subscribe for more daily F1 content, guys, and there's it for qualifying. Anyway, that's it from me. As always, check out the 2 videos on screen if you haven't seen them already, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for the race. Until then, take care, and let's go out from me.